What does it mean to design the future? I've been reading Peter Thiel's book 0 to 1. It's an amazing book where he talks about startups and how to build the future. And he says something really interesting. He basically says that to really succeed, you have to create something new. Not build on top of something, but build something really new from the ground up, from scratch. Basically go from 0 to 1. And he goes on to say that to be able to create something new, you have to visualize the future and you have to understand what the future is. But what is the future? What does this word future actually mean? In the most general sense, the future is simply the set of all moments that are yet to come. But this doesn't really help us characterize the future in terms of innovation. And Peter Thiel goes on to do it himself. He says if society is different only 100 years from now, then the future is 100 years away. Or for example, if society looks different 10 years from now, then the future is 10 years away. And he ends this by saying that we know only this for a fact, that the future is different from today, but it is rooted in today's world. And this definition is super interesting because if we actually take a look at history, we do categorize our history and our progress into different eras. We had the Stone Age, and then we had the Bronze Age, and more recently, of course, we had the Industrial Revolution, then the Information Age. We don't really look at our history as a continuum, at least in a general sense. We look at our history as different distinct categories or eras, like I mentioned. If we go deeper into this, we actually do see a relationship between different inventions and innovations and discoveries, of course, with their respective eras. For example, Isaac Newton laid the foundation for the reflective telescope through the Renaissance and the scientific age. Then we had James Watt come in the Industrial Revolution, the steam engine. It was a vital part of the Industrial Revolution and literally defined it. Then we had Tim Berners-Lee and the internet and the information age, which is what has led us to where we are today. And this definition really makes sense because if we categorize our history into distinct periods of time, it makes sense to look at our future as being distinct from where we are today. And psychologically speaking, humans are some of the few mammals that are actually capable of forward thinking. And this makes a lot of sense because when we study our cognition in great detail, we actually understand that one of the most important factors of being human is actually our ability to look at the future and act towards it. And there are also psychological concepts like mental time travel and episodic future thinking, which sort of define our ability to visualize and characterize the future in a way which is meaningful to us. When I think of a startup, startups are basically founded on the principle of creating some new value. And how do they actually go about creating this value? Essentially, startups create value by making or innovating something that has never existed before. And I sort of like to think of this by using the analogy of potential. In physics, things move from either high potential to low potential, or in some cases from low potential to high potential. And for users or customers to actually find value in what the startup is doing, they actually have to see the potential for change. Assuming that today is status quo, we're in the now, a startup essentially can only create that potential for change by trying to understand what the future for that user or customer would actually look like and bring that future back to now. And that's how users or customers, and that's how society actually adapts to that change and moves forward. And it's really interesting because I started noticing a trend with these people who we call visionaries. And I started noticing that the more you look into the future, the greater the value you create by bringing that future to now. I mean, for example, Steve Jobs, when he said that you could fit 1,000 songs in your pocket at that time, people thought that was inconceivable. When he launched the iPod, people felt like it was so far into the future that it was amazing the amount of value that created. Same thing with Elon Musk. I mean, we've all watched the sci-fi movies of like 2050, 2075, whatever, 100, 200 years from now. And we see that, we're an interplanetary species and, we're tapping into the energy of different stars and everything. But the fact that Elon Musk is trying to bring that future to now is what makes us perceive so much value in what he's trying to do. And this is why it's so important to visualize the future, to have clarity on what the future would actually look like. Peter Thiel talks about this. He calls it definite optimism. You need to assume the future is definite and you need to be optimistic about it. And this is what puts our progress and our evolution back into our own hands. Like, we get to control it. And personally, I think that we're moving in the direction of having or improving or augmenting our own capabilities, our capabilities of understanding the universe and interacting with the universe, the world around us, integrating more into each other's lives. And that's what I personally think the future is. But the beautiful part about having this clarity or visualizing the future is that everybody can have their own subjective interpretation of what the future actually is. If you visualize the future a particular way and you create value by visualizing that future and innovating for it, and society starts adopting those innovations that you create, that starts defining the future and that starts paving the path for what our future would actually look like. And everybody has the control to do that in their own way. Companies like OpenAI, Google, amongst 100 others are actually working towards creating this new age of intelligence where technologies like GPT and Palm really augment our cognitive capabilities. Sam Altman even writes in a blog post where he talks about planning for AGI and beyond, and he essentially lists the plans for the future and what it means to society to actually have technology like artificial general intelligence. How we define the future beyond that is really dependent on you and me. It's dependent on all of us to actually construct the future from that point onwards. But to be honest, I don't really think it's necessary for us to think at that scale. We can bring it down, we can zoom in, and we can even construct the future by solving smaller problems, right? We can design the future by solving small problems for our users and for our customers and just small improvements to the way we actually think, work, and live. I really think the key takeaway is actually just having clarity and visualizing what the future really is. We design the future by thinking about it, visualizing it, and working backwards from that point and bringing that future to now. Thanks for making it till here. I just want to take a small moment to explain what Kubo actually does and who we are. Kubo is a startup based in Bangalore. Our entire focus is on creating magical experiences for users. We feel that if technology is designed to be an extension of us, it feels magical, and that's what we really aim for. We sort of do this in two ways. One is we consult with other companies, startups, and innovators and help them create magical experiences for their users. And the other is we're working on a text to UI product which actually helps innovators and designers ideate faster and they can get feedback quicker and everything. And basically, where our mission is to really create magical experiences. The reason why we're making these videos is because we feel that with the advent of the age of intelligence, where we have increasing automation, we feel like the creation of mock-ups and low-level executional design aspects will slowly be automated. And we think it's more important to start understanding how we think, and that's what we want to do. We want to discover new ways to think and perceive the world around us, and we're not sure how we're going to be able to do that, but if you're interested in topics like this, please do like and subscribe. Thank you.